What's up, everybody? I hope you're all having a great day. In today's video, we're gonna take a look at this 2017 Ford Focus RS. The Ford Focus RS became for sale in the United States for the first time ever in 2016. The Focus RS has always been a sort of halo car or legend car among people in the hot hatch community. Unfortunately, it was only ever sold overseas. We never got it here in the States, which was a shame because this thing is one of the sickest hot hatchbacks that you can buy. Of course, other cars we have out there, Golf GTI, Golf R, stuff like that. But honestly, those are all cool, but you see them a lot. This, on the other hand, you don't, because as I said, this is the only generation of the Focus RS that has ever been sold in the States. And guess what? This is the last one as well. They're never gonna sell one here again because Ford has moved away from cars within the States. Very unfortunate. I wish they would release the new generation here, but it doesn't look like it's gonna be happening anytime soon. But this thing, as I said, came out in the 2016 model year, and it really revolutionized everything. We have a 2.3 liter four-cylinder, which we'll talk about in a second, all-wheel drive, 6-speed manual, and just the look. I mean, this thing is very aggressive. This is one of the sickest, most aggressive looking hot hatchbacks I've ever seen. I mean, look at how mean it looks. And of course, this one does have some aftermarket goodies. It does have the front carbon fiber sort of grille. It does have an aftermarket intake, which makes it sound awesome. The exhaust a little bit modified as well, but this thing is sick. I tell you guys, it is one of the awesomest hot hatchbacks I've ever driven. I've driven plenty. I've driven a Golf R, a Golf GTI. I've driven obviously the Fiestas, but this thing is where it's at. I tell you guys, it is like nothing else. But let's go ahead and move on to the interior so I can show you guys what that looks like. So of course, the Focus, when it came out for this generation in 2011, 2012, was an Econobox. That's what it was. You know, economy car, about 20 grand, maybe a little bit less. And of course, you could have got it with a automatic or with a manual, even the regular one, yes. But the interior was very lackluster. Plastic everywhere, just not good materials. And then they came out with the Focus ST, which was sort of a, you know, upgrade. It was a GTI competitor, and it was what really kind of sold everybody on the hot hatchback here. We've had Golf GTIs, but they were sort of a niche kind of market. But now the Golf actually got a competitor, the Focus ST. They kind of cleaned up the interior, put some nice seats, gave us some, you know, ST badging and all that. But again, it was still a Focus interior. This one, on the other hand, sure, there's a lot of shared parts with the Focus, but this thing really revamped the interior. So first things first, when we open the door, is you see all this blue stitching. There's blue down here with the RS logo, blue on the seats, blue on the steering wheel, on the door. It is awesome. We have blue stitching here. We have it all over the interior because you have that sort of black and blue look. Of course, there's the calipers that are blue. We have the blue RS logos. So the car really does exemplify that RS sort of lineage all around it. Now, of course, one of the most special colors that Ford had on this thing was nitro blue, which was this like sort of that like baby metallic blue color. Absolutely stunning. This one is black, but I think the black with the blue is really nicely complemented. Looking at the interior, we do have these RS specific seats. They hug you well nice. They are Recaro seats. They're very nice, bolstered, and getting in them is honestly not hard. It's really easy. They're not stiff. They're not like carbon bucket seats or anything, but awesome seats. I really do like them. To start this thing, obviously, clutch in, foot on the brake, wherever you want it, whether you want it in neutral or whatever, and then push button. So you automatically hear that 2.3 liter four banger that honestly is the thing is crazy, man, how much power it makes for a little four-cylinder. But this thing is an awesome car. Now, of course, you do still have to deal with some of the Focus plastics on the interior, which is normal, honestly. I mean, you're not buying a, you know, $50,000-$60,000 high-end car. You're buying, at the end of the day, another Focus. But the good thing is that this thing is relatively affordable for what it is. So hot hatchback, this is honestly, this is the hot hatchback. You know, the GTI and the ST are hot hatchbacks, but this is the hot hatchback. Now, of course, on the interior, we do have, it's fully loaded, so it has basically the premium interior from a Focus. You have the big screen with the Sony sound system, sounds really good. Up there, we do have Focus RS specific gauges. The ST does have those, but these ones are obviously they're blue because to go with the whole RS thing. You do have a oil temp on the left, you have a oil pressure on the right, and then the funnest one, or funnest, is that a word anymore? The best looking one is the boost gauge in the middle, and you guys can hear the turbo. It won't really spool up because we aren't putting any load on it. You do have Focus RS specific gauges with the blue. Of course, as I said, it is a pretty just basic Focus interior aside from the seats and some stuff, but honestly, the best part about this interior is definitely this drive mode button. And you guys are thinking, a button, really? Well, when you push it, the car goes into sport mode, which is awesome because it stiffens up the suspension, makes it more aggressive. But my favorite one is definitely that mode. Drift mode, if you guys check out the video that I just filmed before this, drift mode is something the Focus RS really revolutionized when it came to the hot hatchbacks. This is an all-wheel drive car that can drift like basically a drift car. If you guys want to know more, check out that video, but awesome. Honestly, as I said, pretty basic interior, pretty basic Focus interior, just with like dressed up with the RS, you know, logos everywhere and all that. But I know you guys want to check out what's underneath that hood, and I know you guys want to go on a drive, so let me show you guys what this thing's hiding underneath the hood. This right here is a 2.3 liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder. This is the same motor that is shared with the EcoBoost Mustang, but in the Focus RS you do get a little bit of a sort of power bump, if you want to call it that. So in the EcoBoost Mustang it makes about 330 horsepower. In this thing it makes about 350 horsepower. Now you may be thinking to yourself, 20 horsepower, that's nothing, and only 350? You got to remember the size of this car. This thing is small and it's a hot hatchback with all-wheel drive. This thing is an absolute beast. You guys are going to see when we go out on the drive. It's awesome, but it also gets pretty good gas mileage. You get 19 in the city and about 25 on the highway. I think combines like 22, which is really good because it is paired to a 6-speed manual, as I showed you guys, and because of that, you can obviously get a lot better gas mileage because you could just coast. You could put it in neutral and coast. Awesome setup. This motor is one of the best when it comes to the hot hatchback motors. They did have some initial issues in 2016 with head gaskets, but that was remedied relatively quickly. Ford addressed the issue, issued a recall, and a lot of them were fixed. 2017 didn't have that issue. But honestly, awesome car, man. I tell you guys, I can't wait to get behind the wheel and show you guys what this thing is like to drive. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and get to the drive. All right, so now it's time to drive this. Time to drive the beast, and I tell you guys, this thing is a wolf in sheep's clothing, honestly. I mean, you see it and you're just like, what is that, like a Focus? I mean, what is it, like 120 horsepower? If you don't know what you're looking at, if you don't know what RS means, you may think, you know, whatever. But I tell you guys, this thing is a beast. It's so much fun to drive. It's so easy to drive too, I gotta state that. So the Focus RS was also one of the first hot hatchbacks to really utilize the hill descent, or not hill descent, hill start thing, where it won't let you roll back, but they took it to another level with this car. So with the Focus RS, it's honestly virtually impossible to stall this car out because Ford added something to the system to where it will prevent you from stalling out. It'll basically give the car RPM to let it take off, like let's say in first gear, so you can't stall out, which is, I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, it's cool, but it's also kind of a hindrance to drivability, because if you're like me, you know, you love cars, you love driving, you covet manuals, this thing is like a toy. It's basically computer assisted, and while it's cool for somebody who maybe doesn't know how to drive stick shift, for me, it's sort of like, well, can I turn the system off? Because at this point, it's kind of like, well, why do you need to help me? I don't want it. You know, I can do it myself. And it's not about like, it's not about, oh, I could drive stick shift, so don't. It's about the fact that this is a driver's car, and when it becomes too computerized, I feel like it's losing that soul of being a hot hatchback. Because you guys remember, you know, the old Man, this thing is so much fun. But it loses the aspect of being a classic hot hatchback. You know, you guys remember we had the Golf GTIs of the 80s. We had the Sierra Cosworths. Oh my God. The Escorts. I mean, those were monsters. They were awesome hot hatchbacks. And none of them had any of this computer stuff. And sure, we are in a different time, a different era, but I wish Ford had included a way for us to turn these systems off. And there might be. I could just be blind and I don't see it, but I don't think there is a way to turn it off. And it's cool for people that don't know how to drive stick shift. This is honestly a pretty cool car to learn how to drive stick on, because it will aid you the whole time. But if you already know how to drive stick and you're kind of like, stop telling me, you can't really turn it off. And let's get away from sort of that, because I don't want to beat a dead horse, but this car's drivability aside from that is really easy. So the manual is really easy to use. The throws are pretty short, they're not long, and the clutch is super smooth. I mean, you know when it's gonna grab, you know when the release point is, and it's super easy to drive. And this thing is an awesome daily driver. I mean, this is like the ultimate daily driver, because it's all-wheel drive. So if you live in like the north or something, you know, if there's a lot of snow, that's not a problem for this car. You have the little 4-cylinder, which packs a good amount of punch, but it also gets great gas mileage. And you also have the fact that it's pretty comfortable in here. But back to that 4-cylinder aspect, if you really wanted to, you know, if you wanted to pass somebody, it's not a problem for this car, because and that all-wheel drive system, I tell you guys, it's a beast. I mean, the thing just does not let up. It's so aggressive, especially because I have it in sport mode. It just holds. I mean, you go into a turn at full throttle and this thing just holds. I tell you guys, it is awesome. That's what hot hatchbacks need, is an all-wheel drive system, because it makes the car so much more fun to drive in every aspect. You know, front-wheel drive hot hatchbacks or whatever, they're cool, they're old school, you know, but these ones, man, oh, this all-wheel drive, this car and the Golf R are so much fun to drive. You have just a buttload of torque because of that, you know, 2.3 liter 4-cylinder, as I mentioned, 350 horsepower. That's nothing to slouch about, you guys, in a hot hatchback. And guess what? This thing has a massive aftermarket potential. People tune these things all the time. So if you want a different exhaust, they have that. Different intake, they have that. Different turbos, they have that. You can modify these things like, you know, nothing else, because there's a great aftermarket support. But I guess the one thing I have to say that I kind of don't like about this car is sort of the interior. I mentioned in the walk around when I said that it's better than the regular Focus, because it is, because of the seats and everything, but it's still a Focus interior, and there's a bunch of wind noise I hear through like the you know, the doors and the windows. And I wish that it was just a little bit higher end. The Golf has a really nice interior, and I kind of wish Ford had done something like that with the Focus RS, to where they made it feel more premium, because at the end of the day, guys, this car was like 35 grand base MSRP new. So it's a pretty expensive Focus, but at the end of the day, this thing's a beast. I absolutely love this thing. All in all, this all-wheel drive system, you don't really have to, you know, worry much about being thrown into a ditch. There is that possibility if you're in snow, if the weather, you know, if the conditions are not good, you do of course have to be careful. But I mean, just look how smooth it is to drive. I could daily drive this car with no problem every day. Super comfortable. You have heated steering wheel. The seats are heated, just super easy to use and super nice. I mean, and then you have all that just power and torque. I was in 5th gear, and all you have to do is just give it some throttle and you can pass people. You don't really have to downshift. Super, I mean, just super cool, man. It's a dang shame that we won't get a second, you know, the new generation of this thing in the States. I wish Ford would bring it, but it doesn't look like they will. And it sucks. It really sucks, because this is an icon. This thing's a legend in the hot hatch community. But that's why we have to covet these cars. That's why we have to keep them and, you know, drive them, because that's what they're for. But let me know down below, you guys, what do you guys think about the Focus RS? Is this something you would buy? Or if you're looking for a little small sort of hatchback with a good amount of power, you can't go wrong with the Focus RS. This thing is a beast. Now, if you're buying a 2016, or even I think some of these, you might want to be a little bit wary of that head gasket issue, but just check the paperwork, because Ford did issue a recall, and most of these were fixed under recall by Ford. So I would issue that, or check the paperwork, just make sure everything's good. And of course, get a pre-purchase inspection, because if it's modified, you might want to check what modifications it has, because a lot of people, you know, will buy these when they can't fully afford them, if that makes any sense. Like younger kids, like 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, where they get, you know, their parents help them buy these, and they sort of don't really. You should always get a pre-purchase inspection. You want to make sure that these things, because they're an RS and because they charge a premium, they kind of weed out that sort of boy racer mentality of like the, you know, 16, 17-year-olds that their parents help them buy the car. That's more in the ST range, because since these are more expensive, they don't have, you know, the younger people don't really buy them as much. There is that, you know, strange anomaly sometimes, but most of the time these are owned by older people who are car enthusiasts, who know what they like, and they're typically treated pretty well. But let me know down below, you guys, what do you guys think about the Focus RS? I absolutely love it. This is one of my favorite hot hatchbacks. This and the Golf R are right up there. And of course, let me know down below, would you guys pick one of these up, or do you think you'd kind of just stick to a maybe a little bit more mundane Focus ST, or even just a regular Focus? But I don't think you guys should overlook this. This is a beast. This is an awesome car. Let me know down below. I look forward to hearing from you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.